planning
Oh,
showing just a Conservation Commission. Before we start, just a couple things. If you have electronic devices or cell phones, if you could silence them or turn them off, greatly appreciated. Also, if you're here to speak on any of the applications, and we encourage you to do so, please take the podium, give your name for the recording secretary, speak into the microphone. If you have to leave the podium for a plan or whatever, take the mic with you. Okay, thank you. And first up is minutes for June 15th, 2016. That was the joint meeting with the planning board. Anybody, I read them, I thought I found them to be.
I read them and I found them to be
I
acceptable.
move that we approve them.
So we have a motion by Betsy, second by Jamie, to approve the June 15th minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. June 27th.
We have to put those off probably until the third week of August,
Okay.
because there are only 4 people and all 4 people have to vote. And Mary's
Oh.
gone and then I'm gone.
The
So,
27th one or the 18th one?
oh, June 27th.
June
Yeah.
27th, yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't here for
We
the June
just
27th.
took the ones we were talking about right off the agenda.
All right, I wasn't here for the June 27th.
Okay.
I looked through them, I didn't see any issues. I make a motion that we accept them as written.
So we have a motion by Jamie to accept the June 27th minutes. Do I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mike.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Okay.
But not all there.
Moving on. Request for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of the 2 applications. What you want to hear in this case is a negative determination. And first up is 217 Clinton Ave, LLC, care of Rich May, PC, 217 Avenue, Clinton Avenue, map 47C-08-030A-000B, Falmouth, Mass, with permission to install concrete sidewalk, granite curbing, reconfigure, install fencing, landscaping, and removal of existing paved parking and decking, parking area reconfiguration, a reconfiguration of existing plantings, installation of drainage, associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a +3 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
It's just a tremendous amount of work that's being proposed at this site. If anybody knows what their site is, it's right at the end of the harbor next to the clam shack? Clam something?
Clam check.
Yeah, Clam Shack. So it's that building that was an architectural firm, and it's being turned into a private residence.
Oh, yeah, well, I second
Yeah.
Courtney's
So we
motion.
have a motion by Courtney
Yeah.
and a second by Betsy. Comments or questions? Comments, questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. This is a +3 on that application. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Next up is Town of Falmouth, the waste WQMC, care of Cia Carplus, Bay Street between 131 and 138 Bay Street, and Rand Beach Road layout, adjacent to 175 Chester Street, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a 12-inch pipe containing carbon substrates such as wood chips and a pump with a screen filter to pump water through the medium, all located within the existing riprap near the fish ladder. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm about to sneeze, I'm sorry. We're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Just one follow-up, I did send Peter an email, we did send him this, he will get back to me on that, Mike, on whether or not it requires an FD's permit. We sent that over to him today,
Okay,
and when he responds, I'll let C know.
that's fine.
Okay, so we have a motion by Betsy, second
Second.
by Courtney. Comments or questions? Comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Next up is Heather Burke, 207 Grand Ave, Falmouth, Mass, with permission to remove the existing steps and 2 decks and to construct 2 additions, a covered porch, bulkhead, steps to a patio, and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Courtney and a second by Mike. Comments, questions?
Is this changing the footprint at all of the structure? In other words, are they basically removing the decks and doing the addition in the
No,
same
it's the
place?
same,
What
it's all
are
the
they-
same size.
Okay,
I mean, it's over existing brick patio, so they're adding a covered porch over an existing deck, and they're adding a proposed bulkhead, which is new,
right.
and then they're changing part of they're enclosing part of the house. It is changing the footprint slightly, but
Okay.
some of it's over existing impervious surface.
Okay.
Anything else? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved. Paul Hogan, 112 Racing Beach Ave, Falmouth, Mass., with permission to install an 8-foot by 16-foot arbor on the existing deck, install a privacy fence on the northern property line, remove invasive plant species and replace with native shrubs, and to replace dead red cedars and install a windbreak for protection. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So
So
moved.
moved.
I'm going to give it to Courtney.
He seconded.
Jamie seconded it. Any other comments, questions from the board? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved. Next up is Edward Welsh, et al., 4 Circle Drive, North Falmouth, Mass., with permission to replace the existing cesspool and upgrade with new Title V sewage disposal system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a +3 under the state and the bylaw. The reason is you approved this application back in March with a location that was acceptable to the commission and the staff. They have since changed the plan and want the septic system on the resource area side of the house, which is within an area of coastal dune and buffer to coastal dune and velocity zone. We're saying move it back to the front of the house, and if you need to seek the variances from the Board of Health, do that. If they are to put it on the resource area side of the house, the staff would recommend, when they come back for a notice, to file it with a tight tank. But right now, we're on this particular RDA request, we are recommending a +3
So moved.
under the state and the bylaw.
Second.
A motion by Betsy and a second by Mike. Any comments, questions? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved. Next up is Robert and Emile Irving, 358 Acapesca Road, East Falmouth, Mass., with permission to raise, this is a request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetland Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. All right, now, so, notice of intent, Robert and Emile Irving, 358 Acapesca Road, East Falmouth, Mass., with permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new single-family with attached garage, screen porch, deck, install AC units, driveway, dry wells, utilities, driveway, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll save any of my comments until after Matt's presentation.
Thank you,
Good evening,
Mr. Chairman. For the record, Matt Costa, Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. I just handed you some reduced color plans. It's a little easier to follow. We're here tonight under a notice of intent application to raise and rebuild the existing dwelling. We're going to attach that new dwelling to the existing garage. We're not rebuilding the existing garage at this time. Resource areas for this project include salt marsh, coastal beach, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage. We have for this site previously legally disturbed buffer zone area, which has been delineated on the plan in that green hatching that you see. That's actually bounded by a chain link fence in the backyard, and it's primarily lawn area. The proposed project does take place within Zone A and Zone B buffer zones. We have delineated the Zone A and Zone B buffer zones on the plan, and call your attention to the mitigation calculation section where I broke everything out for you, because we have some overlapping Zone A's and Zone B's. Each line item is there. To summarize, what we're doing is we're actually moving the structure further away from the resource areas. We're actually reducing the area of structure that is presently within Zone A. So we're reducing the area of the structure within Zone A, and we move some of that back into Zone B. When I run the calculations, we have a net zero mitigation required. This is a very straightforward project. We have articulated in the narrative how it meets the performance standards, and we respectfully request that you issue an order of conditions. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Matt. Jen?
Yes, Matt, you have a 50-foot buffer to the salt marsh on your plan? It's a 100-foot buffer? I see the 100, I'm just making sure your calculations...
Yeah, the Zone A is the 100, you see right under it?
Yeah, I got that.
Yep.
So why do you have 50-foot buffer to salt marsh on that?
We set the limit of work about 50 feet away from it.
Okay, but that shouldn't say buffer to, it should say 50 feet to your limit of work. Okay. And then the only other question that I have is, you know anything about that dock?
I know that we were unable to find a license for it.
I was unable to find a permit for it, and guess what? I don't believe the assessor's department is assessing the property for a dock either. So I would highly suggest that whatever order you receive is going to say you need to clean up the dock issue prior to any work. We can't have an illegal or unpermitted structure out there and allow new work on a property. It's going to be a recommendation of mine going forward to try to permit and legitimize docks when able. I'm not saying this one will be able to, but I'm just saying when able. So you use the 3-to-1 calculation for your salt marsh. That's
Correct.
just what I'm
Yep.
clarifying. Okay, great. I don't really have any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Courtney?
No questions.
Mike?
Number of bedrooms changing?
Nope.
Other questions?
Betsy?
No, I think he did a nice job.
Thank you,
It was well staked.
Jamie?
Just a question about the septic. You're going to relocate the tank,
Correct.
potentially anyway?
Yeah.
And the system's adequate for this?
Correct.
Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I make a motion, we close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Motion by Betsy to close the hearing,
Second.
take it under advisement.
Second.
And Courtney?
Got 2 seconds. Got a second at either end.
I'll give Courtney, I heard it.
That's fine. I didn't hear him, that's
He
why I
doesn't
said it.
hear out of this year, that's why. He doesn't hear us.
Wanna borrow that?
Okay, any other comments, questions from the board? Comments, questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstained? So moved.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks. James Johnlin Robinson, 55 Gardner Road, Woods Hole, Mass., for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new single-family
Who was that, Mike?
with decks. Did I read this one out? No, it's the same thing. Okay, sorry.
I was looking.
And construct a new single-family with decks and stairs, install dry wells, outdoor wind station, utilities, associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
And one clarification to that, Mr. Chairman, and I missed it, raise is R-A-I-S-E. They are demoing part of the house, but they're also lifting it,
Yeah,
so.
that's what I was told in the field.
Yeah.
So it's actually
lifting it.
raise and raise.
Yeah,
Raise
it's
and
raise
raise.
and raise.
And raise. Thank you.
Got to throw a raisin in there somehow.
Raise, and raisin.
And it's a single-family house,
Correct.
not a single-family.
Good evening, Mike.
Mr. Chairman.
Otherwise, he'd be raising a single family. We're not in, that's not part of our chart.
It took me a second thought. Sorry, Mike. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, for the record, my name's Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. I'm joined tonight by Greg Leahy, who would be the general contractor for the project. I'm also joined by George Patello, the site contractor for the project. And we're here tonight to ask permission to do basically a reconstruction of the existing house at 55 Gardner Road. Gardner Road is in the Woods Hole village of Falmouth. It contains approximately 32,000 square feet of land, much of which is wetland. We're showing the wetland in a lighter green color. And we're also showing the associated no disturbance zone A and outer buffer zone B to that wetland. There's also land subject to coastal storm flowage on the property in the form of a VE16 and an AE15. The existing house is located in the AE15. The base flood elevation is 15. The house does not meet FEMA standards as far as construction or its height as far as the first floor elevation relative to the flood zone. So during the reconstruction, the house is proposed to be elevated to meet that standard. The proposal is for 1 foot above elevation 15, so the first floor would be at 16. And the average elevation of the ground around the house is about 3.5 to 4. So this will be elevated to meet those standards. You could not do the project without meeting FEMA standards. This project is a redevelopment project in accordance with your regs at 10.18, and it's been designed to meet the standards by first not moving closer to the wetland resources than the existing primary structure, and providing mitigation for any increases in impervious surfaces. We submitted 2 exhibit plans with the application, 11 by 17s, that showed the shaded areas of the impervious surfaces existing as compared to proposed, and we summarized the results in some notes. And the end result is that there's approximately 243 square feet of mitigation required, and we're providing 250 square feet. And we're providing it in an area that's adjacent to and abutting the existing buffer. And it's also 10 feet from, at its closest point to the new house. So we meet that standard. You're also required to provide 1 tree per 1,000 square feet of mitigation planting. So we have provided and proposed 1 6-foot eastern red cedar, and it's proposed on the south side of the property in this location. We were able to design the project to minimize the increase in impervious surfaces overall on the site, and one of the ways we did that was we were eliminating some outbuildings that are in this location. There's very minor increases on the structure itself due to like access stairways and things like that due to the elevation of the structure. So this has been designed to meet the standards at FWR 1.8. We're proposing dry wells to contain roof runoff. This house is on town sewer. The number of bedrooms is staying the same. Part of the structures has a foundation that may be salvaged, but we're not going to propose the project in a way that would be suggesting it's to be salvaged. We're assuming that it has to be removed and reinstalled So there'd be some excavation and removal of the foundation, installation of a new foundation. At least we're proposing it that way. If we're able to salvage part of the foundation, we may not have to do as much excavating or reforming, but it's highly unlikely. The architect is going to look into it. There will be some minor dewatering as part of the excavation for the footings, and it's, I have a copy of a schematic of the methodology for the dewatering. If I could submit that, just so you could see that schematic. It's commonly used and been proposed by George Battello Inc. in the past, and I'd like to submit it.
Please do.
There's copies.
For everybody?
Yep.
Thank you.
Basically, there'd be a well installed, and groundwater would be pumped into a container, so it would act as a settling basin, and then it would discharge into a hay bale area so that there'd be no erosion or no sedimentation into a wetland. The groundwater would be, it's clean water, it would just be returned back to the ground, and it would recharge back into the ground. So I think that sums it up. I think it meets your performance standards, and it meets the standards at DEP regulations, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Jen?
No, Mr. Chairman, I was on site the other day with the GC and Mike and went over the project again. So I've been out there twice and I'm fine with it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Jamie?
It doesn't look like there's a lot you could do about it, but the limit of work, pretty restrictive, particularly on that
Yeah, the limit of work
southwest corner.
over here.
Yeah,
Yeah, the limit of work is proposed right up against the existing buffer. Construction access and most of the staging would come from, there's a back driveway this way, so, and the rest of the house is fairly wide open, so we think it's workable.
yeah, I'm not sure there's a lot you
There
could
really
do about it anyway, but
Right.
thank you. I'm good.
Thanks, Jamie. Betsy?
I have two questions. One is, where does that back driveway go to?
It
What road does it hook up to?
it leads,
Park Road?
Park Road.
Park Road, okay. And the other is a comment for George. Just, Maury's not here, but I will say, we usually say straw bales, not hay bales.
Okay.
That's great. It's a nice project, nice place. Be great to have it done.
Thanks, Betsy. Mike?
So you're all done? Negative?
All done. All right.
-2.
Hour and 45 minutes from here.
Oh, I bet. Take care, huh?
I had two questions already, and you answered them both.
Oh, good.
Bye-bye.
Courtney?
Your narrative, you say that you're going to elevate the house to 1 foot above the flood. I know there's been talk about doing 2 feet, because effectively 1 foot only gets you up to the bottom of the joists are essentially at water, at flood. So, given the projections on the rise of sea level, I think it might be prudent for your clients to go to 2 feet above the flood.
I've heard the same, and I haven't been able to get a definitive answer. I've recommended to the architect, Andrew Borghese, that he look into that and verify whether or not it's changing. So it would be.
At this point, it's, the additional cost of going on the
Right.
foot is minimal.
The only thing we need to check out, and I think it'll be okay, is to make sure we don't violate the maximum height to the ridge. So I've talked to the architect about this and asked him to consult with the building commissioner.
No other questions?
All
I'm good.
I move we close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Motion by Betsy, second by Courtney. Any other comments, questions? Comments, questions from the public? Sure. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous. So moved.
Thank you, Mike.
Good night.
Betsy, can you do the form on the next one for me?
I can. What is the next one?
The next one is the
I
Woods
admire
Hole
the view.
Oceanographic Institute. See, Greg.
Actually, Betsy, they should be on the end. You see the big stack of papers? Is that my quorum sheets on the back? Keep going, keep going. Yeah, that's it.
All right, this has already been read into the record. This is the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, care of Dave DeRosa, 360 Woods Hole Road, 171.
Mike, I like
Oyster
this.
Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass.
I like
It's
that.
not here.
The Woods Hole one?
Nope.
Well, then it must be right in, well, then the file's right in front of you if you
Right.
just read that.
Are you guys on the quorum? I'm not on the quorum. Are you on it, Courtney?
Which,
Woods Hole?
Oceanographic.
yes, I am.
Woods Hole?
Yes.
Woods Hole?
Yes.
Woods Hole?
Yes.
It's the four of them. I'm gone.
Okay, sit down, so look up the quorum now. Easy.
Well, you recused yourself before anyway, so you can't be involved.
You
I
know,
know, I can't do
Okay,
it.
okay, we're all set. We're all set.
you know, Cranky, give
Thank
me
you.
the quorum sheets. I'll read them myself.
It's not in them.
Right.
Can I have a
Good
copy?
evening,
Can I have
Mike.
Can I
that
have a
before?
copy, Mike, even though I'm going
And I
out?
have it. Thank you.
Thanks. Sure.
These are just copies of the exhibits I put in the letter, but in case you didn't remember.
Stack of stuff.
We do kill trees.
Why do you ask for
Hey,
12
Betsy.
copies?
I don't have to.
You want, this is the one I passed out last week.
That's fine, please.
You just want to exercise your copy machine.
That's it. I'm gonna pull in my stock and Xerox.
Jen, would you like to say anything before Mike begins?
No, I'll wait until after Mr. McGrath.
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, my name is Michael McGrath. I work for Holmes and McGrath, civil engineers and land surveyors that prepared the notice of intent and plans. This is a copy of the colored plan that I presented last time, but the commission had reservations about the suitability of the mitigation that you were worried about the loss of trees within jurisdiction. So we've submitted an additional, some additional material. The first thing I submitted was an inventory of the trees that was prepared by LEC Environmental Consultants. Just to give you a quick overview, this is a copy of an aerial photograph you have. This is an area of pavement expansion, and this site is over 123 acres. And your regulations say that you could ask for a replacement of tree by tree, but if the site is not densely vegetated, then you can ask for cal per inch per cal per inch. So I wanted to make sure you saw that this site is in fact densely developed. No matter what, there is significant research that's going on of global implications that's going on at that building. That building, if you've been to the site, it's got a very high door. They build large-scale ocean-going buoys and other material. If you've been to the site, you can see that they are actually doing significant work. And they need additional space. As I told you before, we went through we have a Cape Cod Commission approval of the campus. It was very significant permitting effort. These buildings are appropriately located. One of the things I pointed out in my letter was, yes, it's a coastal bank, and there's an exhibit that shows you, I'm sorry, I'm a little clumsy.
Just a tad.
This is a copy of the This is a copy of the site plan, and this is the coastal bank in the vicinity. I gave you a copy of the flood insurance studies. They have transects. The nearest transect is close to this site, and they identified where, by elevation, the 50-year storm event, and then there's a 100-year storm event, and they identify those by elevations. So the mapped 50-year is at elevation 8.1. The mapped 100-year still water is elevation 10.1. And what they've done is they've added 18 inches for what's called wave setup. Wave setup means that the water gets added, it floods and moves inland quicker than it can drain out. So they call that setup. So what the point of this exhibit is that this shows the 1 in 50-year storm. So this coastal bank is separated by there's a beach, the bike path, then there's a very significant wetland here, and then there's a wetland here. So this coastal bank is not immediately adjacent, it is some distance away, and according to the elevations in the federal insurance study, a flood insurance study, this should only see it should only retain flood waters 1 in 50 years. No matter what, you still have your regulations require offsets. And one of the things that we had proposed before was some trees that were over by the ESL, Environmental Systems Lab. But we found out that there are buried computer cables in that area. But we were asked to look at the drainage. Right now, the project site is over here to my left. This is the other entrance off of Oyster Pond Road. There's a significant building here. That building, if you were to look at the campus map, that's the ESL. This is where we're adding to the site. So this is further towards the southeast or northeast. In any case, there is an existing waterway that just dumps onto this driveway, then it drains across the street and goes into this wetland. There's also a waterway, a paved waterway that goes to about here, then it drops down a coastal bank, flows across the street, and goes into this wetland. So what we've done as mitigation is we have proposing that we're going to install a leaching trench 150 feet all the way along this edge of that parking lot. We'll also interrupt this paved waterway. We're putting a leaching pit in this location. We have moved the leaching pit so that the bottom of it is above the groundwater. And we're showing that the areas that are disturbed are loam and seeded. So we believe that's a suitable mitigation. We also are, this is the area of the work, this is the boundary of the campus. This is Woods Hole Road. This is the majority of the site that's developed. We've given conservation restrictions as offsets for some of the development that's occurred on the site. When we, for instance, when we did the loop road, we created a certain amount of conservation restriction. Every time they develop the site, they end up, and if it trips the thresholds, we go back to the commission and we give them additional conservation restriction land. So for instance, we recently agreed to add more conservation restriction land in order to expand the storage area at the LOSIS building. So what we've agreed here is to further offset the activities that are occurring on site, we're going to propose propose a conservation restriction be placed adjacent to a vernal pool that lies on this portion of the campus. It's basically northwest. But the vernal pool is, has been identified when we went through the Cape Cod Commission as a vernal pool. And so what I've done is, you already have a 100-foot no-touch zone. So I'm adding the equivalent 8,600 square feet as a conservation restriction. I've created a little gap here because we have not completed an instrument survey of this corner, and the building's very close, but we will create this conservation restriction. When the Cape Cod Commission imposes a conservation restriction, they make sure that we have it recorded by the time we ask to occupy, use the space. And we would ask that if you condition it, that we have this conservation restriction, that it also be, we have to have it imposed and in place by the time we basically ask for a certificate of compliance or a partial certificate. But it does take a significant amount of time to arrange for that. The other thing you asked us is, why wouldn't we move the paved area outside of jurisdiction? And I included an exhibit that shows that the tennis court is surrounded by very steep banks all the way around. We cannot move this driveway, since it went through the Cape Cod Commission, without significant permitting. We need to get this built. So topographically, there's no way to turn this tennis court. So we believe that this is an appropriate activity for an institution that is one of the world's leader in scientific research. So we believe that the combination of all that we've agreed to adjust the drainage. We're still going to plant the plants that are shown in the original site plan. We've agreed to a conservation restriction, and we'll agree to address the two drainage problems that were identified. So I believe that this offset is more than what would be needed for you to basically approve the project, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Mike, how about if they impose the CR? The CR must be imposed and in place prior to operations. Don't put Chase and Huey to get a certificate of compliance on this board. It's gonna have to be something other than the certificate of compliance. Okay? There's just too many projects out there. If you're gonna need occupancy, but you're not, because it's just a paved area. So I'm gonna need something a little bit more concrete than when Huey or Holmes McGrath decides to go for a certificate of compliance 3 years from now. So, gotta give me something better than that.
How about February 28th, 2017? That way there's enough time to get it done.
Okay. February 28th, 2017?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a leap year.
Is that Wednesday? Is that
We'll go
Wednesday?
on the
There's no-
closest date to that.
That's not an imaginary date.
What?
No,
Just
that's-
checking to make sure it wasn't.
Yeah, just
yeah.
like
pulling
within
the
6
chain,
months or
Mike.
so, Mike.
I
But
just-
you're not gonna have 3 years to get the CR in place.
No, but it takes a minimum
No, I
of
know,
3
it's 6
months to
months,
get a
yeah.
CR
Yeah.
done. And I'd hate to see us get the pavement in place and then somehow we gotta wait because it's,
Yeah, I'll give you 6 months to get the CR done.
all right, that's appropriate.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Mike?
In favor, in short, I'm now in favor of it. That the number of trees is still disturbing, but two factors. One, it's a necessary project, there's no missing that. And two, it made real efforts to improve the condition. So with that done, I'm satisfied, I guess is the word.
Courtney? Thanks, Mike.
Well, I think you've had to deal with some difficult challenges. I think you've got it in pretty good shape now. I have no questions.
Thanks, Courtney. Jim?
I have nothing to add.
Thanks for the drainage issues over the years, so I think it's gonna help. I happened to catch that the day it was pouring and saw it go right across the road, so hopefully that'll help that out.
Yes.
Should.
Okay, so with that,
Motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
motion by Jamie and second by Mike. Loud. Any other comments or questions from the board? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote to close the hearing and take it under advisement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Thanks, Mike. Have a nice night.
Somebody go get Betsy for me, please.
Could somebody
Oh,
just,
look.
yeah.
The quorum sheet for 171 Oyster Pond Road.
All right, next up is Lawrence Birdie, Lot 1, Ryder Road, map 04-03-004-001, North Falmouth, Mass. This has already been read into the record. And Jen?
Yeah, this is Mr. Borselli's
Yep.
property.
Mikey just went to get.
Oh, he went.
Oh, okay. Basically, we were waiting for a deed pay number, which we received, and Mike revised the grading and added a box drain to the end of the driveway. Mike, what did you do with the
You want Betsy?
drainage part of it?
Mike, you got Betsy, you said Betsy was out there? Okay, thanks, Mike.
No, you can keep
Yeah,
going.
So, yeah, we got the DEP file number, and we heard from a concerned abutter about runoff coming off of our site onto Ryder Road. And when I did the original plan, the grading was such that a part of the driveway would run off onto Ryder Road. So there was talk about doing a cross-trench drain,
Yeah.
which is expensive. So I submitted a letter to the file that proposed an alternative, and the alternative was to regrade the driveway so that from here, it pitched back into our site, and it all pitches in and through our site this way into this woodland. So there's no need to spend an unnecessary amount of money to intercept a small amount of water. We were able to accomplish it by just doing regrading, so the driveway comes from Ryder Road and dips into our site instead of shedding onto Ryder Road. And then I put very specific notes on the plan about that being accomplished to ensure that no runoff goes from our site onto Ryder Road.
Fair enough. Jen?
The only concern I have with that, Mike, and just so your clients are aware that this will happen in the order, is that things aren't always graded properly, and I don't want to get into a discussion that if we go out there because we get complaints that this issue was not addressed, even though it was brought up at the commission's hearing, there's still runoff, I'm not going to take, well, the contractor didn't grade it right as an excuse.
I absolutely
If there
agree.
is runoff, and if it's significant, or even there's any runoff, a box drain is gonna be required, and that is gonna be written into the order, okay? Just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just so you're comfortable with that.
I'm very confident it's not necessary. Your compliances require an as-built plan, and the as-built plan will demonstrate that the grading of the driveway is such that no surface water will shed onto Ryder Road.
You know what's gonna demonstrate it? Is
A
our
rainstorm.
first rainstorm.
Well, what'll
So we're gonna
demonstrate
take
it-
that as the demonstration.
And if a neighbor complains.
Yeah.
I move that we close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Motion by Betsy to close the hearing, second by Courtney. Any other comments or questions?
Did you say you got the DEP number?
Yeah, we do have it.
Okay.
254214.
Thank you, Jamie. Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Nice solution, Mike.
Next up is John Lund, 2 Silver Beach Ave, North Falmouth, Mass. It's already been run into the record. Jen?
We have a DEP number. Yay!
Nice.
And that's it.
Very
Move
good.
to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Motion by Courtney and second by Jamie. Close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Thank you very much.
It's such a compelling argument.
That's going to be my fastest.
That's being your fastest, and you didn't say anything wrong.
That's right.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
This wasn't
Okay,
a,
next
Barbara,
up.
go on, Mr. Chairman.
What, pardon me?
No, go on.
Okay. Next up, continued request for hearing under an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Nancy Hodder and Kathy Hightower. Gale Ave, map 40-12-040000, East Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we asked for, or we suggested that the applicant continue this because we needed more clarification in the field for an INRAD. You don't see INRADs often. They're, as you said, a way to delineate wetlands on usually a larger parcel for subdivision reasons, larger projects. Occasionally, every 2 or so years, we'll see one. Usually they're barbers. So what we do is we go out, the applicant flags the wetlands, puts it on the plan, and we go out to see if we agree with that delineation. In this case, we did need a few more flags put up and a few more resource areas more clearly delineated in the field and on the plan. That was done, so the staff is comfortable with the plan that was submitted and revised on July 13th. So we will recommend accepting the delineation of the bordering vegetated wetland, the salt marsh, and the bank.
Okay.
I move that we close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
So, motion by Betsy, second by Courtney. Any other comments or questions? Comments, questions from the public?
Barbara almost looks sad she's not able to talk.
You think before you speak?
I'm not saying anything. First person who speaks loses.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
BBW
I'm
salt.
going to call for the vote, since there's no comments or questions from the board or the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barbara.
Lovely
Thank you,
job
Barbara.
tonight, Barbara.
I know.
Oh, outstanding this tonight.
Batted it out of the park tonight, Barbara.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, under other business, and I added one thing, Betsy would like to speak to us under other business briefly,
Okay.
okay? So, first up is,
You should be happy. This is something that got passed from you to Mark to me.
All right.
No, it's the Betsy and brief thing that kind of threw me.
All right, go on.
okay, this is Sophie, correct?
Sophia, yeah,
Sophia?
yeah.
Zofia Kajowski, trustee, 27 Wampum Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to maintain a flow off of parcel 2703-016-000 on Mayor's Pond. Jennifer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was hoping to have a recommendation from town council. So you all received the letter that this property owner sent to maintain a float at Mayor's Pond. Basically, what's going on is the commission has received multiple complaints over the years about a float being on Mayor's Pond. This was our third summer that we got a complaint, so we finally, with the cooperation of MES, blanketed the neighborhood, the surrounding neighborhood with letters, and, you know, pretty much said all the boats, kayaks and everything, because you own a very large piece of conservation land on this parcel. And the float, if it's yours, please remove it, or we will have it removed, and the town personnel will go and remove it off of our property. We were contacted by this property owner, who's not a waterfront property owner. It's her float. She's Greg Frazier, okay, there's two issues. One, she needs a 10A permit from the harbor master's office. She needs a Chapter 91 license because Great Pond, Mayor's Pond is a great pond. One, Greg Frazier, the harbor master, will not issue a 10A permit for a float to a non-waterfront property owner unless they have specific permission from the property owner to have the float there. That would be this board, and the Board of Selectmen, because it's town property. This is currently before the Board of Selectmen for them to make the decision on whether or not to give this property owner permission to have the float there. They are looking for a recommendation from the Concom because it is your parcel. You have care and control of the parcel. But ultimately, it's a town-owned parcel, and that, according to Town Council's office, falls within the Board of Selectmen. They've also reached out to council for a recommendation. I would suggest this board, and I've already talked to Diane Davidson, table this discussion until August 3rd when you have a recommendation from council on the legality of having the float on the property and whatever liability issues lie with that happening. Okay, so Diane has agreed to put this off until after your August 3rd meeting so that you have your recommendation from council and you can go through the history again and make a decision with all the information. So I suggest
that
you
we
just
table
table
it.
it.
Second.
Continue it until August 3rd.
Thank you, John, I
Continue or
agree.
table?
Yeah.
Continue, I'm sorry, wrong language.
Continue it,
Yeah, till August
so
3rd.
you want, you said
Yeah.
continue a table?
No, I just said I move. I so move.
Okay, you so move, all right.
I so
I just-
move with that
just-
recommendation.
Just a quick comment, I mean, clearly, one of the issues here is precedent.
Yes,
Did we have a second? I'm sorry.
Courtney's on the second.
we're just gonna say Courtney seconded it and then ask questions.
Yeah, this is-
Yeah, and that's something that, it's gonna be your recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen's ultimately going to make the decision whether or not to allow this float there. Okay?
anything else from anybody? Mike, you good?
Oh, I'm good.
All right, Betsy?
Oh, my turn? We
Yeah.
didn't take the
Yeah.
vote.
So we're gonna second, I was just asking if you had any comments.
No comment, no
Okay.
more comments.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Continued. Now, Betsy, we have a presentation
From
as a coastal
me,
barrier
Mark, to you.
resource systems mapping project. Info, need, vote.
Yes. So,
Okay.
we've been contacted by,
And you promised me 2 minutes, right?
I know who we've been contacted for.
I know, but they don't know
Yeah.
who we've been contacted by. We have been contacted by someone who's working on the Coastal Barrier Resources System Mapping Project. As you know, when we have projects on coastal barrier beaches, there are certain regulations that have to be followed. And if you want to know what those are, Jen can tell you, but she tells us when we need to know them. So the beaches that are mapped that way, there are two questions that this project needs to know. One, do we want to keep the beaches that are our property, that is, conservation property, town of Falmouth property, under the management of the Conservation Commission? Do we want to continue to have those parts that are under these barrier beach protection remain? And I would recommend we'd say yes. And they've expanded their mapping that will include a little bit more of some of our areas.
It's a lot more, and some of that, if you've looked at the mapping, Betsy, some of that includes private property owners.
It doesn't matter.
I understand
The
that, but
question
this
he
has,
wants us to answer is the town of Falmouth Conservation Commission comfortable?
who wants you to answer the question?
This is a consultant who's
I
doing
know
it.
that, so this, you need to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. And this is what I told Mark, this has to go to the Board of Selectmen, this is not with this board.
We can't do this? This
We
is
can ask Pat, but-
Conservation Commission land.
I understand that, again, but if we're going to expand a certain mapping or everything, you need to let the town know you're doing it.
Would the selectmen then be looking for a recommendation?
They
from
will
us?
then be looking for a recommendation
Okay.
from the commission,
So I would like the commission to recommend that
to the Board of Selectmen, yes,
to the Board of Selectmen.
that's fine.
Okay.
But
And
have
then-
you looked at all the different lands that they want to encompass?
Well, I have, but these are, it doesn't matter if it's not conservation land. There's additional land that's private, but that has nothing to do with the question that they're asking us.
Okay.
They're only asking us about lands that are under our jurisdiction.
And they're asking for our permission to map it, is that the?
Right, to include it under these protected areas.
And the implications of that are?
Well, Jen,
I don't know, I haven't looked at it in depth, I asked Mark to look at it, if Mark asked you to look at it, he did so without letting me know, so this is making me kind of uncomfortable, you're looking to me for advice, and I have no advice to give you.
Yeah.
So next time you
except I
wanna,
just want to say, I emailed both you and Russ several days ago that I wanted this on the agenda.
I'm sorry, Betsy, I missed the email, you should have called me. You talk to me every
No,
day, you
it's
should have
probably my
called me.
fault, because I never mentioned it, so.
I'm not trying to make it difficult, Betsy, but, I mean,
I mean,
you know,
I,
there's a little bit more to this than this, and I want to make sure that we have it completely vetted
Yeah,
out
I don't have a
before we make a
problem.
recommendation to the Board of Selectmen or tell that consultant that they need to talk to the town manager's office to
I
do
mean-
this, because they're gonna want, you know, we've asked them, we'll come up and give a presentation, and they've pretty much said it's not in our budget to give you a presentation on what this means.
Well-
We've pretty much, yeah, we have contacted them, Mark has talked to them, and they will not come up and give us a presentation on what this is.
Well,
who's paying for
thing
this?
is, this
It's a consultant working for,
USGS,
yeah,
these are areas that are mapped all over the country, coastal barrier beaches.
oh yeah, I know what they
And,
are, Beth.
I mean, you know how sensitive coastal barrier beaches are to storms, to et cetera. And areas that so I can tell you one project, one area that we've had with coastal barrier beaches is out at Black Beach. That's an area that's within this zone, because it's a barrier beach. The Woodneck Beach is a barrier beach, and there's certain protections they get. Now, the fact is, our conservation land wouldn't allow any, and basically, it's to restrict building on these areas that are likely to be impacted by storms. But the fact is, the areas that we have, our conservation lands, wouldn't be built on anyway.
Have you talked to this consultant?
I talked to him.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that, you kind of getting at what I'm, if it's a matter of going in and drawing a map, I don't have an issue with it. If it's a matter of drawing a map and that defines certain regulatory things that kick in,
Yeah,
then
then
all I
you
want
have
to
to let
know,
the Board of
all I
Selectmen
want to
know.
know
Yeah.
is what that is. And as you say, yeah, I mean, right now, all our areas like barrier beaches are protected. I mean, it's probably pretty innocuous, but I think it would be nice to hear from the horse's mouth, the guy coming
Well,
in.
we're not going to hear from the horse's mouth.
No, we're not.
There are barrier beaches all over the United States.
Betsy,
They don't
why
have
don't
the
we-
opportunity
Betsy,
to go to all those, to go to every
Why don't we just
town.
table it until you get back and you and Mark and I can sit down? Because I haven't sat down and talked to you about this, so I'm uncomfortable giving you guys a recommendation. If you guys want to follow Betsy's lead, go ahead, but it's going to be you're doing this on your own.
Well, we still would have to go before the Board of
Yes,
Selectmen,
so
and
I would be
I
more
couldn't-
comfortable
Right,
with
and I
you, me
couldn't-
and Mark sitting down when you get back,
Right.
and then readdressing this issue on a later agenda.
Yep, that's fine, and I can't go before the Board of Selectmen until I get back anyway.
Yeah.
So,
So why don't we,
I think that's the way to go.
yes, when are you back,
Would
Betsy?
somebody make a motion to that effect, that we continue this?
14th.
And next time you want something on
Table.
the
You
agenda,
wanna-
I'm
is
sorry
this
I
a
missed your
table
email,
discussion or a
but when you
continued
see the
discussion?
agenda, call me and we will
Continue
put it on.
discussion, or actually,
Don't blindside me like this.
yeah, continue discussion.
Is this, technically, we're tabling it is changing the time in the meeting, or is continuing?
Yeah, we're continuing it.
We
Yeah.
continue discussion to
Yeah,
another
we'll
date.
continue
Well, I'll
this-
move that we continue this discussion until
Betsy, when are you back?
the 14th.
14th?
of August?
August.
Hang on,
Okay, until.
wait. I don't know off the top of my head if you're meeting on the 14th of August. The 17th, you have no meeting, so it would be the 24th.
I saw that, Betsy, I read your
So,
email.
all right, so
I
I'll
should have
move to
mentioned
continue
it
this
too, but-
discussion till August 24.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Courtney, second by Mike.
Sure. Sure.
All those in, for any other discussion?
Yeah, give you a discussion.
Mike?
I can't believe the federal government is moving that quickly, but is there the risk of us losing some opportunity by?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Respond to
I'm
this
fine with
person
that.
and
I
say
mean,
that
But
we're
good.
required
I
to go
mean,
before the Board of Selectmen.
Fine.
We will carry this through. I'll get back to him.
Yes, my only point was, is if somebody is essentially giving us candy and we're turning it down, I want to know that we're turning it down. That's not the case.
Right.
There we go.
Right. I think what they're asking us in the town for is totally innocuous, and it
I
doesn't
believe-
hurt to have this additional requirement.
I'm not sure
But-
that the federal perspective of the issue is always aligned with the local perspective, and I want to know how the two mesh
Well,
before
as
we
far
make
as-
a decision.
as
That's
far
all I'm
as-
saying.
Well, Jen will find this out. She'll discuss it
Betsy,
with
you and
town
I and
council
Mark
and
will
the
get
selectmen.
together when you get back and talk about it prior to
Items
the
that
Yeah.
the 24th agenda.
Yep, but I have to respond to him because I told him I would respond to him.
I'll
So
give
I
you the
will copy you on the
Okay.
email.
30 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Mike would just like to talk about one thing on the coastal resilience thing.
Okay, everybody has to stop putting things on the agenda without us knowing about it, because this is really
I
not
believe
right.
the chairman
But no,
has the
that's
right
fine,
to
that's fine. You just,
add
I
something,
like Mike's draft.
so.
If you want to put a standing thing on the agenda about updates for coastal resiliency once a month, just let me know.
Yeah, we probably will at some point.
Yeah, that's
Let's
fine.
talk. I drafted the start of a memo that outlines what I believe we agreed to. And it has the kind of scope we're asking, and I'm going to get some feedback on what we think deliverables would look like and the schedule for this. I see it as a task force, meaning the committee meets for a duration, and when it's over, it's done, not as a standing committee. And I'm trying to get, in my what I really want to do is be sure we know we being the Conservation Commission, what we're getting into before we really start. Set the stage and focus, and if there's an issue, I believe this will set us in the right direction, and if it isn't in the right direction,
You can vet that out, yeah.
we'll set that up.
We're gonna be mainly a consulting,
I think so.
as far as
As I-
conservation
it-
goes, it's the planning board's,
I
Deal.
believe that's true.
yeah.
I believe that's true. Maybe I've gone too far in this, but we'll talk about it.
I don't think so, I think this is.
No, I think it's good, Mike.
I wanna study it, obviously, but
Yeah.
I think this is a real good start. And I think we'll get a copy up to,
Are the rest of us going to be given a copy?
Once this gets, I figured, I wanted to get this started, and once this is done, we'll pass it out here before we move
yeah.
forward.
You know what, we'll send it out in an email, how's that?
Fine.
We'll scan it, send it out in an email.
I'll send you the electronics to make it even easier.
Okay,
Mike, just send it to me and we'll send it out to the board.
Very good.
all right.
All right.
Cool.
Anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Courtney and Betsy on the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Unanimous, we are adjourned.
Have any